Murder and Such contains true stories about murders, the macabre, true crime, serial killers, and other dark subject matter. This includes adult themes, explicit language, descriptions of gore, violence, and other information provided by news articles, witness testimony, and public record. Murder and Such is not intended for all audiences, and although warnings will be set in place, listener discretion is still advised.
Welcome back to another episode of Murder and Such. This one is going to honestly be kind of strange. But before we get into this one, as I do with every episode, I'm going to do my usual housekeeping. For Patreon, I would love to thank the wonderful Miss Trisha for jumping on the back end of the show. I would also like to thank the fabulous Miss Morgan in Eau Claire for backing the show. So a thank you to Daniel Kuska for jumping on the Patreon as well. And a very special thank you to the incredible Miss Michelle Davis for jumping on the show at the executive producer level. And things have been a little nutty around the show lately, but I will be sending out your stickers very, very soon. So thank you. And if you would like to jump on the back end of the show and help put some food in my belly, get some exclusive perks, you can find the Patreon at patreon.com/murderandsuch, and you can donate just $1 an episode, or you can become an executive producer by donating $5 per episode. But if not, if you can take 30 seconds out of your day and drop me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, that would be stellar. Just say something like, "Hunter smells like the inside of a rotting hog carcass." I don't know, just think something up, because those QAnon people that I've been kind of talking some shit about, they've been leaving some 1-star reviews on my show lately since they were, taken off of Facebook and Twitter. So thank you to my new patrons, thank you to the people who tossed me a review, and thank you for joining me on this episode. It's going to be kind of a doozy, but I'm also going to be using a lot of audio clips since I've heard that you guys kind of like those episodes. So let's go ahead and kick this one off. Obsession. A persistent, disturbing preoccupation with an often unreasonable idea or feeling, or something that causes an obsession. Obsessions can include numerous topics, such as those obsessed with true crime podcasts. You might know someone with a true crime obsession, or even you might be the obsessed one. Would you consider it healthy? Well, as long as you don't take it to the extreme by trying to become a topic yourself on an episode, I'd say it's okay. But some people are obsessed with activities, such as working out, or partying, or even some activities that may seem somewhat normal, but an obsessed person can take them to the extremes, sometimes causing a conflict between friends and family. Now, the show My Strange Addiction has some very, obviously, strange obsessions. Some seemingly harmless. Others definitely dangerous. They vary from something seemingly harmless, such as a man who's 31 who's obsessed with dating women over the age of 65. There's another episode where someone is obsessed with pony play, where they will dress up in the equestrian fashion, including stirrups and all. But some can be arguably deadly, such as the woman in Season 2 who bathes in nothing but bleach, a very caustic chemical. or Season 1, where Josh is addicted to eating glass. Some may be seen as strange, whereas pony play is consensual, and while people may see it as odd, they're not technically hurting anybody. Or the man who's obsessed with elderly women. As long as it's consensual and nobody gets hurt, who cares if he's slam dunking on grandma? But the others, and vast majority of them, are dangerous to themselves. What if an obsession isn't dangerous to the person with the obsession themselves, but instead with a person that they're obsessed with? Now, I have talked about incels on the show before, and this may make me kind of a dick. I've actually spoken with a few people who are involuntarily celibate. And I can't say that they're all dangerous. Of course, I'm talking about the extremists who are. But this story won't turn out as the non-dangerous type. The man at the center of this story is most well known for being a dangerous, stalking incel, but he is also known as having one of the strangest interrogations that has ever been caught on tape. But as always, my name is Hunter, and you're listening to Murder and Such, and this is episode 72, Stephen McDaniel. For this episode, we're heading down to the town of Macon, Georgia. The year 2011. The setting? Mercer University. Lauren Giddings was a 27-year-old student born on April 18, 1984, in Tacoma Park, Maryland. She was a Class Act student, graduating from Athlon High School in 2002. After that, she became enamored with politics and attended the Agnes Scott College, graduating in 2006 with a degree in political science, but she also played softball and minored in religious studies. But she was a selfless woman. She had worked at the National Center for Public Policy in Washington, D.C. after her graduation. In 2008 is when she had decided that her best career path would be for her to go into law studies. She wanted to become a public defense lawyer and attended the Mercer University's Walter F. George School of Law. She ended up graduating on May 14th of 2011. She still lived an active lifestyle and had more friends than you could imagine, which isn't hard to believe because when you get a look at this radiant young woman, something makes you instantly drawn to her. Two of the most important things to her were her family and her religion, also her dog. Her parents Bill and Karen kind of wanted her to come home to Baltimore after graduation, but she wasn't quite ready yet and had decided to stay in Macon a little while longer while she studied for the bar exams. This is not uncommon amongst new graduates, and Macon, so I've heard from my friends who lived there, is a nice area. Close to the beach, some touristy areas. Can't blame her at all for that. Her two sisters also want her to come home, but they understood her position. She stayed in her apartment, hung out with friends, and spent a lot of extra free time studying since the law school was so very close to her, actually across the street. Now, becoming a lawyer is one hell of a feat, so she wanted to mix business with leisure, hang out with friends, and get as much time in with them before she decided to head back to her parents' home, which was supposed to happen eventually down the road. Lauren had a boyfriend whom she met in 2007 when Lauren was an intern at a downtown Atlanta law center. I will also note, in an article about Lauren's boyfriend, David Vandiver, that was posted to Macon.com's The Telegraph on December 12th of 2011, it said that Lauren had left an impression on The Office to the point where they started a thing called Pink Wednesdays and urged employees to wear pink to lighten up the office a bit. You can just about imagine how gloomy things can get in a law office, but that really strikes a note with how splendid of a woman that Lauren really was. David was a corporate lawyer, and with Lauren wanting to be a public defender, you can just about imagine how well they hit it off. Sure, they had issues in their relationship, just like they all do. And while David was a bit older than Lauren, actually 20 years her junior, they always seemed to make it through. Amongst friends, David, and practically anyone she came into contact with, she also had admirers. She was incredibly involved with the public as she wanted to represent them in a court of law. With her intelligence, beauty, and charisma, she was definitely a force to be reckoned with. But with that also comes the worst kind of admirers. Now that brings us to a man by the name of Stephen Mark McDaniel, a man who was 25 years old, originally born in Lilburn, Georgia on September 20th. Stephen was very much a loner, one of the quiet ones. He had a fascination with medieval weaponry, including swords, and spent a good amount of time constructing chainmail armor and swordplay techniques. I will not deny the fact that I am also a total nerd, and a nerd knows another nerd when they see one. A fan of fiction, dabbling in his own forms of writing, speaking of grand adventures that were likened to that of Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter. A short story named The Story of Trevere was found amongst his belongings. His fascination with magic and quests also led him to become a very avid gamer, playing games such as World of Warcraft and the Elder Scrolls series. But as a reclusive type by his own admission, he found himself obsessed with certain topics that could be seen as a healthy outlet, but also some that were of the most sinister persuasions. Stephen and Lauren met while they were attending college together. Much as anyone was attracted to Lauren's beauty and personality, Stephen was no exception. They had a professional relationship while attending school, both working towards becoming lawyers, and they had even studied together a handful of times. Lauren always seemed to notice that something was a little off with Stephen, considering he was much more of a socially awkward type, but that still didn't stop her from helping him so they could both achieve their career goals together. Not only did they attend the same school together, but they also lived in the Barrister Hall apartment complex across the street from the very law school that they were both attending. Sure, they had bumped into each other a few times, and it was said that they might have even had a few drinks at a local bar together, talking about law and all of the law things that a lawyer would want to talk about. Nothing serious, but Lauren was also not the kind of person to straight up tell somebody to fuck off altogether. It wasn't in her nature to be brash and callous. But as Stephen's obsession started to grow, he started to become a little more, I don't know how to say this, but brave with his advances. There were a few times that Stephen had asked Lauren out, but still being with her boyfriend, she had denied Stephen's advances, but she also did so in a very kind manner as to not create an enemy. Well, I can't say for sure if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but maybe her kindness and compassionate way of speaking to Stephen, even when denying him the request of an intimate relationship, might have actually worked against her. Keep in mind, I'm not saying that, oh, she should have been mean and that's why he did what he did, but it almost makes you wonder what goes through someone like Stephen's mind when someone lets you down easy instead of burning the bridge altogether. Another note that I do think is relevant to the fact was that Stephen was also a virgin, not by choice either. I know, I've talked shit about incels before, and I've even cast the most shade against them as a whole, but when I'm speaking of involuntarily celibates on the show, of course I'm going to be speaking mostly about the radicalized incels with deadly outcomes rather than those who just can't find a sexual partner. Stephen wasn't the type of person to sit on 4chan with those internet creeps, waxing aimlessly about how life is unfair, how he can't get the hottest chick on the planet, and how women are the enemy. No, he didn't sit on 4chan, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Even in his personal life, he never showed signs of his inability to have sex as being a victim of a woman's choice not to pursue a romantic interest with him. He still stuck to himself, worked on his chainmail, wrote his story, played his video games, but as he found himself more time alone now that he had graduated, the one thing that he couldn't get off of his mind was Lauren. His interest had soon become not just an infatuation, but an obsession. But as time went on post-graduation, Stephen and Lauren were studying for their bar exam that was set to happen at the end of July of 2011. That final test to become a practicing lawyer, get your foot in the door, and judging by my friend who opened his own law office, the bar exams are not an easy feat at all. So you can just about imagine how much work, studying, memorization, and effort it takes to try to limit your social interactions and focus on your dream. But about a year prior to the incident, Lauren started noticing that things were disturbed amongst her apartment. She had told friends that it looked like some things were moved around, or maybe a couple of things had been stolen from her 2-bedroom apartment. Stephen had talked to her, and he even offered to loan her a handgun of his personal possession. She was up on the 2nd floor, and she had found no signs of forced entry on her balcony door and no signs from her front door. It seemed like somebody had gotten in, but who could it be? Luckily for Lauren, her lease was about to expire, and she was planning on living with a friend, studying for the exam, and hopefully landing a job in the area. So this apartment that she had lived in for years, compiled with the very disturbing findings at hand, were soon to be over. Then more unsettling things started taking place with Stephen. He almost seemed to be latching on to Lauren like a lost little puppy. She and he lived in the same complex, but they were also next-door neighbors. As I mentioned, Lauren was an active woman. She would go running for exercise, and sometimes when she would go running, she could feel almost like somebody was watching her. Stephen had learned the ability to almost pinpoint the sound of Lauren's door closing, and when Lauren would go out running, she would look up at Stephen's window and see the blinds move just a bit, as if someone had suddenly just walked away from them. Not one to be paranoid, Lauren tried her best to think nothing of it. She tried her best to keep the thought of being watched or stalked to a minimum, and tried to carry on with her focus on her sister, who had recently gotten married, and of course, to finally fulfill her dream of passing the Georgia bar exam. The last night that Lauren had been seen was hanging out with her friends on the evening of June 25th of 2011. Lauren would not be discovered until nearly 5 days later. Phone calls were made to Lauren, all of them unanswered. Her sisters had made attempt to make contact with her, and all of them fell short. One of the people closest to Lauren was a woman by the name of Ashley. I will be leaving Ashley's last name out of this, as I believe she is also a victim in this case. It had been days since Ashley had last heard from Lauren. No texts, no calls, nothing on social media, but she knew that Lauren wouldn't just disappear like that. So she went to the apartment complex and located a key on the balcony inside of a candle jar that Lauren had hidden just in case she gotten locked out for any reason. Unbeknownst to Ashley, Stephen was listening when she first tried knocking on the door. He opened his door and told Ashley who he was, and they went into the apartment together with a few other of Lauren's friends. Nothing was out of the line, and all of the, what I personally call lifelines, were still in her place. Her keys, her purse, cell phone, her ID, her car, and nothing looked out of the ordinary or suspicious, but there was one thing missing, and that was Lauren. Ashley's efforts had turned futile, and there were no answers as to where one of her best friends could have been. So she had called the authorities and given all the information that she had to the police, and that's why they started investigating the area. But the following day is when they found something that they were looking for, but it was something that they kept under wraps for a lot of hours. Now, I am going to include a lot of audio clips in this episode. I will not be playing all of them in their entirety, but I think that it is something that needs to be played regardless.
Yeah, Lauren was my neighbor. We're just trying to find out where she is at this point. I mean, no one has seen her since Saturday. I mean, the last time anyone heard from her was an email that she sent out, and no one's heard from her since.
Did you see her hang out with anyone at the time, anything like that?
I mean, no one has seen her since Saturday. I haven't seen anything. I mean, you always hear noise outside, but it's just people walking by pretty much.
The man that you're hearing is Stephen McDaniel. This clip was taken on June 30th of 2011. Now, I am going to jump around a little bit with this, but I want you to pay attention to how Stephen changes throughout this interview.
And she just recently graduated from Mercer?
Yeah, she and I we were both JD students. We graduated back in May.
What kind of person was she? I mean, what did you see?
I mean, she's as nice as can be. I mean, very personable, very much a people person.
Do you know any enemies she might have had, somebody that might want to hurt her?
No, I mean, we don't know where she is. I mean, the only thing we can think is that maybe she went out running and someone snatched her. Because, I mean, we went over, one of her friends had a key, we went inside and tried to see if there was anything amiss, but I mean, she had a door jamb that was sitting right by it, so there was no sign that anyone broke in. I mean, the door was locked when everyone got here. I mean, we just don't know where she is.
So Stephen is pushing this narrative that it looked like nobody had entered the apartment. It looked like there was no sign of struggle, which would give more credit to the theory that somebody could have snatched Lauren when she went out running. But the bombshell is what he hears next. And this is very telling.
What about in the parking lot area? I know they've been doing a lot of, I think that's where they have recovered the body or whatever they recovered from there.
Body?
Had you heard anything? Had you seen anything there? Had you seen anything there? I mean, we don't know if this is the same person. You know what I mean? Like, they took out a body there earlier. We don't know if it's the same person or not. That's why we're trying to ask people if they know who lived there. Are you okay, sir?
I think I need to sit down.
Okay.
You then see Stephen go and sit down on some stairs. He then goes inside of an AT&T store in which he gets something to drink. He's very visibly distraught. But then he comes back out and keeps talking to WXGA reporters.
You've been studying for the bar?
No one had seen her since Saturday because we all just, there's not a whole lot of interaction unless we're doing classes.
Right.
And she was doing the online version of it.
You all studied together, though?
We were in, there's two different people, there's two companies that provide it. Kaplan provides it and Barbary provides it. I signed up with Barbary and I've been doing the lectures that they have in the mornings. She was doing the Kaplan online, so I hardly ever saw her. I would see her go out running, but
What time would you go out running?
I don't even know when.
Was it at night or morning?
I saw her midday a couple weeks ago. That was the last time I saw her, was coming back from the bar prep on the main campus because we got moved over there for a week or two.
But she normally would run. That was the
routine she ran all the time. She had a group that she would go running with. I don't know anyone that would want to hurt her. She was as nice a person as there is.
Was she moving soon? Did you know anything about her?
Yeah. She was going to be moving out today. She was supposed to move out today because someone else was going to be moving into her apartment in the new law school.
Do you know if she was like, where is she from? Is she from Maryland?
Yeah, she's from up in Maryland.
I'll just put this on you so we can hear you. Is that all right?
Okay.
I'm so sorry. Here, and you can just hold on here. Thank you. Yeah, she's from Maryland.
Yeah, she was from up in Maryland. All her family was there, as far as I know.
What's going on in your mind right now? Like, what are you thinking?
So you can hear Stephen start to hyperventilate. He keeps on talking about how he hasn't seen her for a couple of weeks, or he doesn't know what time she would go out running. To somebody with an untrained eye, some of this can seem somewhat convincing. But as for the question of what's running through your mind right now, really the only person that knows what's actually running through his mind is Stephen himself.
Why would anyone do this?
You didn't hear anything?
No.
I
just heard something. Maybe I could have helped.
Okay, don't worry. Do you want to sit down for a second? Get something to drink? Do you know if a bunch of her friends are getting together or anything?
That's how I found out that she was missing. A bunch of her friends came over yesterday night around midnight, and they hadn't seen her since Saturday, so they were trying to find out where she was.
So they were knocking on neighbors' doors and stuff?
No, they went in, they had a key to her apartment, and they checked around, didn't see anything out of place. It was locked when everyone got there.
That was midnight?
Yeah, around midnight, and then we went over to law school to see if maybe she was over in the library studying or something. And we looked up in the study rooms on the third floor, and there was no one there. And we came back, we looked around, and just tried to find anything to figure out where she was.
She doesn't have any family in Georgia?
I don't know. As far as I know, all of her family is from in Maryland.
Have you met her family before?
There was one time that I met them. They came down first year. She had a little dog, a little brown dog, that she would exercise out in front of the law school, and it got hit as she was coming across the road. I heard the car hit it and ran out, and she was there crying, and thankfully there was someone who came along who knew a vet or something, and they helped that, and her family came down, I think a couple weeks after that or something. I met them just briefly.
Right.
But
The crying that you heard in the beginning of that part, hate to say it, are crocodile tears. He's feigning sympathy that Lauren is missing, yes, but they found a body that they haven't confirmed to anybody is actually the body of Lauren Giddings. But Stephen already knows that it is Lauren's body. So this act of being sympathetic and sad that all of her friends are truly feeling is something that he is actually trying to use as a reason of why he wouldn't be a suspect in this case.
We've been trying to figure out, she has a boyfriend up in Atlanta, but someone called him, and he hadn't heard from her. Just no one could figure out where she was.
Who was the last person to be with her? You said that somebody had seen her on Saturday?
Yeah, she went over to a couple friends' house, Garen Mueller and Joe Cairns. They live over on Walnut, and they said that she was over there in the morning, and then that was the last time that anyone we've been able to find out from had seen her.
She hadn't mentioned what she was going to do that day or anything?
Joe, he got onto her computer last night to see if she had said anything. She'd sent an email out to some people that afternoon talking about like going out to eat or something. And the last thing that there was an email that she sent out after 10 that night where she sent to, I think it was someone in Atlanta, a friend of hers in Atlanta, and she said that she was afraid in her apartment that she thought someone had tried to break in on Thursday night, and she was afraid to stay in there. But
confirmed, she did send an email to her boyfriend who was in Atlanta at the time, and she was afraid to be in her own apartment as she did think that somebody was trying to break in. That person was also Stephen McDaniel.
Where did you hear that from? From Joe?
He pulled it up and we read it off the screen.
She had said that to a friend in Atlanta?
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but...
And you hadn't heard anything on Thursday night?
No.
She never came to you to tell you anything?
No, if she had, I could have done something. I could have lent her a handgun. I've got a little handgun that I have for defense. And
She could have slept over or something.
yeah, something. If she was afraid in her apartment, then get her out of there.
They tried to break in on Thursday.
That's what she said in the email. She thought that someone had tried to break into her apartment. She said, like, Macon hoodlums tried to break into my apartment on Thursday night.
Is that her car parked there? The Chevy?
No,
Small car?
no. I think that's the detective's car, Detective
her car's
Patterson.
not even there?
No, it was here earlier, and they towed it. It'd been there for days, and then they towed it to, I guess, look through, see if there was...
The police.
Yeah.
How did you find out that something was wrong with the police here? Was it like when you walked up a little while ago? Or?
No, the police were called last night, and they came and they looked around. They didn't see anything. They went in. We looked around the place. No sign of a struggle. No sign that anyone had broken in. Just nothing. Just she was gone. All of her stuff was there. Her ID was there. Her wallet was there.
That's one thing I want you to remember is where he said that they hadn't found anything. The thing about it was they did find something, but they weren't telling anybody what they had found, although it was the severed torso.
And then this morning they knocked on my door. They were looking around trying to find anything. And a few of the other friends, Burpee and Garen and Ashley, they were here. They were here last night, and they'd come back this morning. I just went out and talked with them, and then they moved us all over to the side, and they bussed us all down to the department and kept us there until I got back just a little while ago. Yeah, they took statements trying to find out if anyone had seen anything, if anyone had heard anything, when the last time anyone saw it was.
No, they haven't confirmed, at least not with us, that it was Lauren that they found. Are you holding out any hope right now?
I hope, but if they found it on the property somewhere.
Not with hope. You hadn't heard anything about a body until you were talking to us earlier?
No. As far as any of us knew, they were still trying to just find her. I mean, we got an email this morning from some people that live on the other side of Kroger, on the other side of the river, that they had seen her in the past running in that area. We thought maybe someone had snatched her over there, or maybe she got hurt or something.
When investigators arrived on scene the morning of June 30th, one of the officers named Detective David Patterson arrived on scene at roughly 9 a.m. to investigate the area. Before moving to apartment number 2 that Lauren lived in, he was met with a smell. One that a forensic crime lab technician knew all too well. They followed the scent to a trash can that was swarming with flies desperately trying to get in. They opened the lid, and what was inside confirmed their biggest fears. There was the reason why the news station was there. The trash company was about to pick up that very trash can within hours of their discovery, but was unable to, as 1058 Georgia Avenue had transformed from a busy street between a law office and apartments into an active crime scene. Now, you did hear Stephen's personal transformation as well, and when they confirmed that they found a body, he emitted what can only be described as some of the shittiest acting and false feign of sadness that I've ever seen. Now, what was the reason behind him even wanting to talk to the news station, let alone trying to meet with Ashley and the others in Lauren's apartment? Some would say that sometimes the killers would make themselves close to the ones that are involved with the disappearance and possible murder to either try to seem more helpful to avoid suspicion, or even getting close with them to try to figure out if there's any suspects in the case or what info they have to go off of. With Ashley, it was said that he wanted to try to see if there was anything that could tie him to her disappearance. Now, that would be his biggest mistake, because you noticed how his voice, tone, and demeanor changed for the rest of that interview. Now, you see, the issue is that Stephen had already been questioned by the police prior to the interview that he gave with WXGA. He and some of Lauren's friends were actually asked to come to the detective bureau to answer some questions related to Lauren's disappearance. While they were all away from the scene is when they investigated the area and found the trash can and the dismembered torso of Lauren Giddings wrapped in several black trash bags that was hastily discarded into the trash can with more thrown on top. The torso was missing its arms, legs, and its head. Since the police blocked off the area, Stephen was unable to drive to the precinct, so he was given a ride, as was Lauren's friends. He was there for some time, he answered some questions along with Lauren's friends, and then given a ride back to the apartment. Still, when he returned, he didn't know that the police were looking at who could have done this heinous crime to this woman. He is asked by investigators to let them search his apartment. He first denied the request, but a second request was allowed. Inside the apartment, they found 3 guns, a PC, knives, swords, flash drives, and other various items, including a red and white cooler. The search lasted roughly 15 minutes, and Stephen was accommodating, talkative, and cooperated with every part of the investigation as to avoid suspicion. Yet his actions were very much more telling than his words. Stephen was sweating buckets, almost literally. The investigators asked him why he had a couple of scratches on his face, but he had 2 different excuses. One was that he had an ingrown hair on his nose, and that he was scratching at it to get the hair out. And the second was self-inflicted, that he said he scratched his face while sleeping. Another strange occurrence was while they were searching his apartment, he drank nearly 10 bottles of water. And granted, Macon is very hot, especially in the summertime, so I'm not going to deny that, but before the search, he seemed relatively okay. But when the search ended of his place, he thought he had thwarted the authorities, but he was still the main person of interest in the case. To him, he didn't know that they had found the torso, but that's when the WXGA interview took place, and he was given the secondhand information that they had found the remains. Detective Patterson knew that Stephen was in on it somehow, but he didn't quite know how he could tie Stephen to this case. Upon seeing Stephen going and sitting down for a minute, David had offered him medical attention from the Police Mobile Command Center as he thought maybe the heat was getting to him. He offered him another drink and medical attention. Stephen didn't accept or kind of just denied the medical help, but he just stopped talking altogether. He was stoic, staring out into space, and you can really tell the tone of somebody by looking in their eyes. Stephen's eyes had transformed. Granted, he did have dark brown eyes, which you can't tell from the photo that I posted with this episode, but his eyes looked as if almost his pupils and his iris had morphed into 2 very wide open, empty, almost soulless, demonic eyes. But that didn't stop District Attorney's Office investigator Jim McDonald from trying to get more info from Stephen. Was it all an act, or was Stephen actually in shock? Can't really say for sure because we can't dive into Stephen's brain and pick apart the white and gray matter and his entire thought process. To me, I'm not a medical or psychological professional, but it looked to me like Stephen had just been found out and he kinda knew it. So McDonald sat with Captain Dipshit for quite some time, to the point where he asked him if he could bring in some crime scene techs to his apartment to fully clear him of any wrongdoing. And it took a while, but about 10 to 15 minutes later after the question, Stephen finally agreed. They later brought in cadaver dogs to his apartment to search for any forensic clues, or, and I honestly hate to say this, any more pieces of Lauren Giddings. McDonald told Stephen that it was just a routine process, but also asked him if he'd be willing to be questioned at the precinct another time. Stephen agreed, but he was still barely talking at this point. On their way there, they even offered to pick him up some food, in which he denied their offer. It was now late into the evening hours on the 30th of June of 2011. Again, for the second time in the same day, Stephen was questioned, and this is where the next series of audio clips will come from, so please keep that in mind. Now, I'll be honest, in my 3 years of doing Murder and Such, I've done a lot of episodes that didn't have any audio from interrogations, crime scenes, news outlets, because while there are a lot of shows that use mostly audio clips with a little bit of narration to them, I tried my best to set the scene for you, give you a lot of the full context, and let the audio better help tell the story just a little bit more. But also, in the 3 years of doing this, I have to say that this is by far the most fucking bizarre interrogation that I have ever seen. You can find the interrogation video practically anywhere, and the source of the copy that I found was posted from Macon's The Telegraphed YouTube page. If you don't want to watch it, let me just set the scene for you. And also, I am going to do a little bit of critiquing of the interview process as well. So here we go with that. The interrogation starts at 11:08 p.m. on Thursday, June 30th, 2011. In the video, the interrogation starts off with just Stephen sitting in a room. There's white walls, blue carpeting on the floor, a brown wooden table against a wall, and 3 chairs around it. Stephen is sitting in the northmost chair, and his hands are completely down to his sides. Detective Patterson comes in, sits down, and the questioning begins.
All right. I just got to ask you a few more questions. Okay. You came down earlier tonight, me and you talked, all right. You don't have any weapons on you, do you?
No.
That's just you are. What's wrong? You know I'm Detective Patterson, right?
Yes.
Do you remember? Put your hands up here. You remember us talking earlier tonight? Right?
Yes.
You remember me earlier in the day?
Yes.
When we came down here and talked a little bit and then we left?
Yes.
Okay. I need to know about this girl right here. You know her?
Yes.
Who is that?
Lauren Giddings.
Does she live next door to you?
Yes.
Detective Patterson, a large man in a white shirt and khaki pants, with his service pistol at his side. He starts inching closer to Stephen. Whether it's a sign of intimidation or not, I couldn't tell you. But one thing to remember with this interview is that he still at this point hadn't told Stephen that a torso had been found, and why he's asking Stephen who Lauren is. But Patterson knows exactly where Lauren is, and with Stephen only answering in the same tone with yes, no, I don't know, he's not really giving Detective Patterson what he really wants. But keep in mind, this interview lasts about 2 hours and 1 minute, and I'm not going to play the full audio for you. But Stephen keeps his hands, as directed by Patterson, on the table. He doesn't break eye contact. He only answers in matter-of-factly ways. It's just, when you watch it, it's just so fucking strange, to be completely honest with you.
Okay. Was you friends with Lauren?
Yes.
Look at me when you talk to me, son. Okay? Was you friends with her?
Yes.
Close friends?
We were good.
I mean, y'all were friends, right? Both of
Yes.
y'all are law students. You're studying to be an attorney, right?
Yes.
What kind of law do you want to go into? Criminal law?
Yes.
Civil? Is that what you want to do for a living?
Yes.
Okay. Are you almost finished?
Yes.
Okay, so you don't have too much more to do, right?
No.
All right. Are you going to stay here in Macon?
I don't know.
Did you used to work at the district attorney's office in Macon?
Yes.
Was you on the prosecutor side or the defense side?
Prosecutor.
So you were on our side.
Yes.
Right. You never worked on the other side?
No.
Did you like it when you were down there?
Yes.
Got along with everybody?
Yes.
Okay. And you've lived next to Lauren for a long time?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know where she's at tonight?
No. No.
Have you ever seen her with that dress on?
No.
You have no idea where she's at?
No.
Okay.
Now, I'm just going to let you know that we're going to take a small break and listen to some lovely advertisers. We'll be right back. All right, and we're back. Now, I'm not going to tell an investigator how to act. That's not my area of expertise, but something about the way that Patterson conducted his interview was cocky. Because at this point, he knows he's got the right guy. But he's overly confident, cocky, and brash, and that's not really the way that you go to coerce a confession out of someone.
Just tell me what happened, brother.
I don't know.
Well, where's she at? I'm asking you for your help. I'm a detective, and I'm asking you for your help. Okay? I'm asking you for help. I need your help. Can you help me?
I don't know.
You don't know if you can help me?
Yes.
I need your help. Help me out. Tell me what to do. Has anybody asked you for help today? I'm asking you as a friend for help. Can you help me?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? You can't help a friend out?
I don't know what you need.
I need to know where Lauren's at.
I don't know.
When's the last time you seen her?
2 or 3 weeks ago.
Have you ever seen anybody over her house the last couple nights?
No.
Okay. If you knew where she was, would you tell me?
Yes.
What do you think happened to her?
I don't know.
Do you even care that no one can find her?
Yes.
I don't know, do you?
Yes.
Do you have a girlfriend?
No.
Did you think Lauren was your girlfriend?
No.
What's up with the pair of underwear that was in your apartment? That was like a
know.
mask. It was cut out like a mask. You cut underwear out to look like a mask?
No.
Who do you think took Lauren away?
I don't know.
Well, I need your help. Can you give me what is your observation of this? I know you're smarter, okay? I know you have an observation you can tell me. What do you think happened to her?
I think someone took her.
Patterson then does reveal to Stephen that they did find a torso, and they believe it to be Lauren, but they know for sure it is a female torso.
You think, you watch TV shows, right? Like
Yes.
detective shows. What's your observation? How do you think somebody would take her? If somebody did take her.
When she was running.
Does she normally run all the time?
She runs, I don't know how often.
You mean you think somebody might have took her when she was running like down the street somewhere?
Yes.
You don't think somebody got her when she got back to her apartment?
I don't know.
Well, you know there was a body found in the trash can next to the apartments.
Yes.
You do know that. And it's a white female's body. Right there. Right next to y'all's apartment. Feet from her apartment. We don't know 100% sure it's Lauren, but we're pretty confident it is. We're waiting for some tests to be done to be 100% sure. I mean, who would do something to somebody and throw them in a trash can?
I don't know.
I'm asking for your advice or your observation.
I'm also trying to do you a service by trying to cut out a lot of the creaking that Detective Patterson's chair is doing.
In your expert opinion, of all your knowledge of going through law school and all that, who in that complex do I need to talk to?
I don't know.
No names come to mind. You can't help me out a little bit? You can't help me out?
I don't know.
You don't know anybody at all that lives in that complex. You know, earlier you told me about a guy that lived in apartment 15. I mean, is he a decent guy?
I think so.
Don't y'all have a laundry room there or something?
Yes.
That everybody has access to the laundry room?
Yes.
Make a mental note that he brought up the laundry room.
I mean, earlier today, me and you sit here and talk normal. What's going on with you now? Why are you acting like this? I need to know. Why all of a sudden you're acting like this?
I don't understand.
Okay. Earlier today, we sat here and talked. But now you're acting like you don't know what's going on. I mean, did something happen or something to you? I mean, why are you shutting down? Why are you not talking to me?
I don't know.
You don't know? Are you scared?
No.
Detective Patterson starts getting more irritated as time goes on. And the first instance of that you'll hear in this next clip is where I think that maybe he's not being too professional.
And you know why we've been working all day trying to find Lauren, right?
Yes.
Because her family wants to know where she's at.
Yes.
And I don't know what to tell her family. So I'm asking you, what do I need to tell her family?
I don't know.
What do you want me to tell them? I don't know? You're going to have to tell me what to tell her family. It's all on you, brother. What do you want me to tell her family?
I don't know.
Well, I need to know. I need to know. Okay? If something happened to Lauren and you know, you need to tell me. If you know something. Because I need to know. Because her family's down here want to know what happened to her.
I don't know.
You don't know.
No.
That's what you want me to tell her mother and her father. Is that you don't know.
I don't know.
Not that you're sorry that she's missing. Not that you've been trying to help me all day find her. But you just wanted me to tell her I don't know.
I don't know.
Are you a sorry piece of shit that you want me to tell her that? You got your ass on that fucking news and stood out there and gave a media report that her mother saw about her missing daughter. And you want me to sit there and tell them that you don't know. Is that what you want me to tell them? Because you're all over the news. You sure stood out there and ran your mouth to the news media. But now you're going to get out here and you don't fucking know. You know. You're just a sorry piece of shit that don't give a fuck. Right?
No.
Well, why'd you tell the media everything? Do you need to see what you told the media today? It was on the 11 o'clock news. Well, I'm asking you. Tell me. I want to know.
I don't know where she is.
That ain't what you told the media. You didn't stand in front of that camera and say, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, calling the person that you're trying to interrogate a sorry piece of shit isn't really the best way to coerce a confession out of them. And this next part, granted, we know that Stephen is a piece of shit. We know that he's a murderous fuck. But I still don't think that asking him a question like this is really a good question to ask any sort of suspect.
What do you need all these weapons for?
To have.
Why? There's a reason why. Were you molested as a child?
No.
Then why do you need all these weapons?
To have.
Why? Give me one good reason. Just give me one reason.
To have.
Why? Does it make you feel important?
No.
Are you a big guy because you got a weapon?
No.
Do you even know how to use it?
Yes.
I need you to tell me what you want me to tell her mother.
At around 25 minutes into the interview, Sergeant Stephen Chapman comes into the room.
Huh? I just don't fucking believe that shit.
Did you talk to him about his guns?
Yeah.
When was the last time you shot those guns?
I haven't.
You've never shot a gun?
No.
Have you ever shot any gun in your whole life?
No.
Never.
No.
So you bought 3 guns that you've never shot?
Yes.
Why?
To have.
For what?
To have.
For what? I'm asking for what? Why do you want to have them? What makes, did they give you, tell me why it's important to you to have 3 guns. That's an easy question. Come on, talk to me, buddy. Me and you talked all day today. We ain't had a problem communicating. Why is it important for you to have 3 guns? Do you not know?
No.
Okay. You got a girlfriend?
No.
Who's your best friend?
Michael Quinn.
Michael who?
Quinn.
Who is he?
He was a law student with me.
Is he still a law student?
No, he graduated
When was the last time you talked to him?
before he moved up to Boston.
How long ago was that?
A few weeks.
A few weeks, like a month, 2 months, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, what?
The beginning of June.
Beginning of June?
I don't know if they're really trying to do the whole good cop, bad cop routine, but as you can tell, his answers are bizarre. Because who owns guns but doesn't shoot them? Most gun owners use them, even at the gun range, to try and hone in their accuracy and skills, so you can tell that these guys obviously know that he's lying or just full of shit. But the interrogation continues.
How many times have you been in her apartment with her hanging out?
I don't know.
You don't know? If you had to guess, what was just, 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, what?
Maybe 2.
Maybe 2? See, if I had only been somewhere twice, I could remember that. If I had been there over 50 times and you asked me how many times, I'd be like, I don't know, a lot. But the fact that you've only been there twice, when I say how many times you've been there, you say you don't know, that's just odd to me. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
That does make sense. So what I'm saying right now makes sense.
No.
At this point, Detective Patterson had left the room, and he's alone with Chapman. You just heard Stephen contradict himself, and he starts doing that in numerous ways. One might think that he could be in shock, but I just think that's all just a role he's trying to play. The reason is because later investigators had shown that Stephen was looking for ways to get away with a crime. He even Google searched and told a prior roommate that he was thinking about committing the perfect crime. Then even checked how to delete his browser history with no trace. So, could this actually be him being in shock? I don't think it's likely at all. Don't believe everything that you read on the internet, kids. But a common theme with Chapman is compassion. Maybe he's the good cop in this routine, calling him buddy, trying to sympathize with him, talk to him about what he's feeling, and he even moves closer to the seat that's right next to Stephen. The only movement that Stephen makes is moving his head. His hands still rest, palms down, on the table for the vast majority of the interview. He doesn't scratch his head, make any furtive movements, nothing like that. No water is given to him, and he doesn't even ask for any. But about 10 minutes from this point, Detective Patterson returns to the room.
Well, how y'all doing?
We're just talking. He doesn't seem to remember a whole lot. Everything's yes or no, or I don't remember. A lot of things aren't making any sense. I gotta be honest with you, Stephen. Me personally, I don't feel like you're being honest. Okay?
Well, Stephen, you said you're going to help me out, right? With this investigation, because we needed your help. We're asking you for help. Right? That's what we... Remember I told you that?
Yes.
And you told me you're going to help me.
Yes.
Right? You're going to help me find Lauren, right?
Yes.
And I asked for your opinion, your observation of what happened to her.
Yes.
Right? And what did you tell me?
I thought someone snatched her.
Right.
You can definitely tell by the tone in Patterson's voice with the right, but he just doesn't believe it. And honestly, I wouldn't either.
What do we need to do? What do we need to do that we haven't done?
I don't know.
You don't know? So if you had this case, you wouldn't be able to solve it. Is that what you're saying? Because you're not smart enough to solve it?
I don't know.
Or you think you're smart enough to be a detective?
I don't know.
No?
You gotta be killing me, Stephen. Stephen.
So?
Stephen, listen to me. We're real people, and we're here to talk to you. I like to think that we're friends, okay? Friends communicate back and forth. The only thing you said is yes or no, and I don't know, okay? It makes me feel like you're treating me like you don't like me, and I feel like I've looked out for you today. Everything you said you wanted, I've given you. I've tried to give you food several times. You know, I feel like we talked. You told me about how you like to look at porn on the internet. You expressed to me that you're a virgin, correct?
Yes.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff you tell friends. You know what I'm saying? Right?
Yes.
What happened to Lauren?
I don't know.
You like her, don't you?
She's my friend.
Did you ever think about having sex with her?
No.
You never tried to talk to her on a dating level?
No.
So you're telling me, you see that pretty girl right there?
Yes.
You telling me you looked at a pretty girl like that and you never once thought, ever, man, she looks good. You never thought that?
I don't understand.
You heard the door shut, and that was Patterson leaving the room to go ask Stephen's grandfather about this other vehicle. Chapman stays behind and asks Stephen about the difference between saying, "I don't know," as opposed to denying all allegations that he might have something to do with Lauren's disappearance.
What if I told you that I could prove it?
I don't know.
You don't know? Is there a chance? But you do admit that there's a chance that I possibly have evidence to show that you do have something to do with that body, correct?
I don't know.
You don't know? Because if I hadn't done anything, I'd say, nope, there's no way. But you say you don't know. Why is that? Why do you say you don't know? Is there a chance that maybe something's there?
No.
Why did you say you don't know?
Because I don't know.
Because you're worried about something, maybe something that happened that maybe something got mixed up with something and you're worried about that?
No.
Then why do you say I don't know?
Because I don't know.
If I was asking you, did you just rob a bank? If you didn't, you'd say no, not I don't know, right?
Right.
So why do you say I don't know?
Because I don't know.
You don't know if you had anything to do with that body?
I didn't.
You didn't?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
What if I said I could prove that you did?
I don't know.
So here's the deal. While they had Stephen holed up in this interrogation room, they had already started investigating Lauren's apartment. To the naked eye, you wouldn't see any blood in there at all. The place had been practically scrubbed. Lauren wasn't necessarily a clean freak, but her apartment, specifically her bathroom and her bedroom, had been almost immaculately cleaned. No signs of blood, struggle, or anything like that at all. With Stephen entering the apartment with Ashley and her friends earlier in the day, and his long brown hair, it could work as almost like an alibi as to why his hair might be found at her apartment. However, with the question of blood, they went into her apartment during the interview, and they sprayed luminol around the bathroom, and it lit up under a UV light almost like a Christmas tree. Blood was also found in Stephen's bathroom and his apartment as well. Cultures were taken of the samples and then sent to the crime lab to be tested against DNA samples they had recovered from the torso and Lauren's apartment. Of course, this does take time. 53 minutes into the interview, and Patterson returns to the interrogation room. It's now the 1st of July, telling by the timestamp on the video. Chapman leaves the room, and Patterson moves closer to Stephen to try and reason with him. He continues asking him questions about his family, his guns, and Stephen can recall that all of his firearms have fully loaded magazines, including one in the chamber in each of his handguns. But yet, he says that he never fired them, which again is extremely strange. Patterson even asks if Stephen has a permit to carry, in which Stephen answers in the affirmative. This is notable because they take your fingerprint in order to get your permit. He asks Stephen if he has the permit on his person, and Stephen says yes, that he does. Then Patterson asks him to take out his permit card. This is the first time that Stephen has taken his hands off of the table in the 56 minutes and 48 seconds that he had his hands resting on the edge. He has not been animated, moved, or adjusted at any point during the entire investigation since he had first placed his hands on the table 57 seconds into the video, when he was directed by Patterson to do so. Later, they keep looking into his wallet, nothing really out of the ordinary, asking him questions about the cards that he uses, what he has, the money. Still no definitive answers as to if he had anything to do with Lauren's disappearance. At an hour and almost 18 minutes into the interrogation, he closes his wallet up and leaves it on the table. His hands go down to his lap, and they do not move for the rest of the interview. 2 minutes later, Patterson leaves the room again, and it's just Stephen and Chapman. The next audio clip is rather loud, but I will be trying to edit the level down, so that's why it kind of goes in and out a little bit. Almost a yelling to an extent. So I don't want you guys to be jarred, and Chapman has had enough, honestly, of Stephen's shit. He knows more than Stephen thinks he knows. And here's that clip. It's rather lengthy, but here it is.
He's very talkative. Stephen, they say you're so talkative, buddy, that you're always so friendly. You stop in and say hello, and you talk. Why is it that you're acting so short with us tonight? If you have all this character and personality about you, Why is it that everything that we get from you is yes, no, or I don't know?
I don't know.
How do you feel about her? Do you consider her a really good friend?
She's a friend.
But not a really good friend?
I don't know.
You don't know? How do you not know?
I don't know what you mean by really good.
Are y'all really close?
No.
No, you're not?
No.
So you never told her any of your personal business?
No.
She ever tell you any of hers?
No.
You ever see her upset?
No.
She was always a happy person, wasn't she?
Yes.
Why are you acting like this, Stephen? You see how I'm able to talk in complete sentences? Like we're having a conversation, but the only thing you're bringing to the table is a yes, no, or I don't know. Why are you lying, Stephen?
I'm not lying.
Yes, you are lying. How long are you going to continue to do it? She's got a mother and a father and a family out there that is sick over everything. Where's their little girl, Stephen?
I don't know.
Stephen, you know. Where?
I don't know.
Stephen. You're going to look at this right here, this little girl right here, and you're going to say you don't know? I know you know.
I don't know.
Yes, you know. What are you going to say tomorrow when I say we got your hair with the body? What are you going to say to me then? Because you know, like I go like that. Look at my hair. That's how easy it falls out. Look at all that on your head. You don't think none fell out? It did. It did, Stephen. We just wanted to give you an opportunity to tell it. So you didn't look like a monster at the end. Because you know what? I don't believe that you're a monster, Stephen. I believe that you're a good guy. You've been picked on. Girls didn't show you the respect that you deserved. You did something stupid. And I believe you feel bad about it. And that's why you're all freaked out right now. But I'm giving you the opportunity to get right. I'm giving you an opportunity to show everybody you're not a monster. That you feel bad about what happened. Your hair's there, man. Your hair is there. We got your hair with the body. How's that, Stephen?
I don't know.
Yes, you do know. Yes, you do know, Stephen. That's right, buddy. See that? Look at it. See how easy? It happens. And it happened to you. Why, Stephen?
I don't understand.
Oh, you understand? You understand exactly what I'm saying. See this stuff right here, your hair? Yeah, it fell out of your head when you was moving the body, Stephen. That's right. You remember moving the body?
No.
Yes, you do, Stephen. Why, man? What happened? Why?
Alright, so that was edited down quite a bit. But at 1 hour, 37 minutes, and 2 seconds into the video, Chapman leaves the room. For the next, and trust me, I checked the timestamps, for literally 5 minutes and 14 seconds, Stephen is left in the room by himself. He never once moved, not even an inch. His arms laid on his lap like they had done for going on almost a half an hour now. He doesn't scratch his head, doesn't put his wallet back into his pocket, doesn't move a single fucking inch. If you watched the vice presidential debate that was earlier this month, you'd notice that there was a common fly that sat on Vice President Mike Pence's head for 2 minutes and 3 seconds. Stephen didn't move for over 2.5 times that amount of time. The fly moved more in that amount of time than he did. It's so jarring for him to be so stoic. It's fucking creepy. But then Patterson comes back in, and he doesn't really have an admission from Stephen himself whether or not he killed Lauren. Sure, he's got circumstantial evidence, and suffice it to say, he and Stephen both know what happened. During the course of the investigation, they found a hacksaw accompanied by more blood that was stashed inside of a locker inside of the laundry room, along with a bloody sheet. Although they didn't have the full admission, they definitely know that he's the guy. That's when Patterson started grilling Stephen regarding more evidence that they've found to help their case. Patterson was honestly over it. It's 12:53 at night, and they've been investigating a homicide for damn near 16 hours now. And this guy doesn't want to give any sort of info. At 1 hour and 45 minutes into the interrogation, Patterson says this.
We know what you did to her, so we just want to know if you were going to tell us or not.
I didn't do anything.
Well, that's what you say. But we know different, so you're fucked either way. You're fucked. We already know. And everybody out there, all your friends know that you're down here because of what happened to Lauren. So all those friends that you thought you had are not your friends anymore. Okay? There'll be no more video games. Alright? At all. This is the end. Is there anything you want to say?
I didn't do anything.
Well, that's what you say. We know you killed her. We know you put her body in the trash can. Simple as that. The sad thing about it is you probably could have made something with your life. But you chose a different route because, one, you don't have a girlfriend, and two, you're never going to get a girlfriend. You're fucked either way. Do you understand that?
I didn't do anything.
That's your side of the story.
Patterson's right. This bullshit act is pretty much over, and they can't arrest him until they have sufficient evidence to prove he was the one who did it. Arrogant? Yes, absolutely. Whether he was trying to get under his skin even more and somehow force a confession obviously did not work. He brings up how his family doesn't care about him, how he could have been something, how he never had a girlfriend, and all of his other shortcomings. He brings up how he's fucked either way. He thanks him for talking to him, and then he walks out. The video cuts out at 2 hours, 1 minute, and 34 seconds. But before that, for another 5 minutes before the video ends, Stephen is left alone in the room again. He's motionless, emotionless, stoic, and just staring ahead at the door. Definitely bizarre to the fullest extent, but in summation, they didn't get the confession that they wanted, and they even let him make a phone call to his mother. They give him a ride back to his apartment, but other officers were requesting a search warrant while they were conducting the interview. He was taken back to his apartment, and he was visibly shaking at the time. Detectives and police were still searching the area, coming in and out of Lauren's apartments, and he had seen them removing evidence bags from the scene. However, they didn't have the warrant handed over to search and seize any evidence from Stephen's apartment until around 2:00 a.m. When Patterson arrived on the scene at about 5 o'clock that morning, he was spotted talking to Lieutenant Carl Fletcher and Detective Stokes, in which Stephen had admitted to them that he had broken into a neighbor's apartment and stole condoms from that place. With that admission, they had enough to arrest him on account of burglary. The method in which he broke into them without them knowing is that he had a master key copied that he had stolen from the apartment complex, thus giving him entry into any of the different units on the property. They also were able to get a search of his person and his car. I can't find if much was taken from the car, but on Stephen himself, they documented the cuts on his face and even found 2 scratch marks on his stomach. Of course, he had an excuse for those scratches too, but, it was all bullshit. While arrested for the burglary charge, they proceeded to do more testing on his property and seized any and all things that would link him to his obsession over Lauren. They seized his computer, knives, clothes, guns, any fibrous materials, anything and everything that wasn't bolted down, which also included the remaining packaging for a hacksaw. He was held in the Bibb County Jail in the meantime while they pieced the entire murder together. It wouldn't be until 30 days later that he was charged with Lauren's murder. The forensic evidence linked him, his computer searches linked him, every single aspect of I don't know was definitely known at this point. What they didn't know was that when they did a forensic search of his computer and flash drives, they found a ton of child pornography, which, of course they did. Just remember that when the detectives were asking him questions about watching porn on his computer and Stephen was answering in the affirmative, they might have been thinking it was something like Pornhub or Brazzers, but he was actually watching children. Just one more reason to lock this monster away. So getting back to it, what happened with Lauren? On the night of June 25th of 2011, Stephen had affixed a video camera to a 6-foot-long wooden pole with duct tape, and he then proceeded to record through Lauren's windows. As to why he did this, I honestly can't say for sure, but maybe it was to see what room she was in, or if there was anything he could add to his disgusting spank bank. He was spotted once but ran away and later returned. This was not the first time he had done this, as someone had seen him doing it before and alerted Lauren, but nothing ever came of an investigation or anything of that sort. As for the actual murder, well, I am going to read his full statement, which was written and signed by Stephen Mark McDaniel on April 21st of 2014. On Sunday, June 26th, 2011, around 4:30 a.m., I entered Lauren Giddings' apartment with a master key I possessed. I was wearing gloves and a mask. I walked to her bedroom door and stood there, observing her sleeping. As I took another step, the floor creaked, and she awoke. She sat up in bed, saw me, and said, very calmly, "Get the fuck out." I leaped across the bed onto her and grabbed her around the throat. We tumbled out of bed to the floor, and in her struggle to get away, she moved her legs and lower body under her bed, preventing her from getting away or kicking me. I kept my hands around her throat as we fell to the floor. She reached up and was able to grab the mask and pull it off my head. She said, "Stephen, please stop." I continued to strangle her until she stopped moving, and I remained that way, my hands around her throat, for several minutes, possibly as long as 15 minutes. She did not move anymore. I dragged her into the bathroom and placed her in the bathtub, then returned to my apartment. I remained in my apartment, mostly on my computer, throughout the day, Sunday, June 26th. I returned to Lauren's apartment around midnight Sunday to begin to dismember her with the hacksaw that was later recovered from the laundry room maintenance closet. I removed her limbs and head, wrapped them in several black trash bags separately, and then discarded them in the Mercer Law School dumpster across the street from Barrister's Hall Apartments. I cut up the mask, gloves, and my shirt and flushed them down my toilet. I wrapped her torso in black plastic trash bags and placed it in the green Barrister Hall's trash can on Tuesday, June 28th, before daylight. I then cleaned up her bathroom. I never used the refrigerator in apartment 1. At no time before Lauren's death did I sexually accost her. At no point after her death did I perform any sexual act of any kind with respect to her remains. She was wearing the pink running shorts when she died, and I never removed them. They were found on her torso, just as I had left them. On Monday, I stayed home from bar prep class. Over the next several days, I rarely slept, used my computer extensively, yet still attended bar prep class on Tuesday and Wednesday. I joined the search party Wednesday night into the early hours of Thursday morning, June 30th. Still in a dreamlike delusional state in which I believed, at the time, while taking part in the search, that Lauren was still alive and that I had not done what I had done. Even searching the empty law school in a delusional hope of finding Lauren alive and well, as if I had not really killed her. During the weeks leading up to my actions and the days following, as I look back on it now, I can only describe myself as divided in mind, unable to account for how I could have committed these horrible acts, and, at the same time, also be able to carry on daily routines. It is difficult for me to explain why I killed Lauren and attempted to conceal my deed the way I did. The difficulty in explaining it lies in my own inability to understand it myself. I know that it was very wrong. I am not delusional or without morals or decency. Yet I acknowledge that something in my makeup, my psychology, my neuropathy, my own particular pathology, perhaps, must explain it, but it is beyond my reach. Lauren was my friend. Not a day goes by that I do not grieve over her death. I am extremely sorry for what I did to Lauren and her family. I do not expect the forgiveness of Lauren's family, and there is no way I can ever deserve it. No words are sufficient to take away their pain. If I could take back what happened, I would do so. If I could restore Lauren to her family, I would. All I can say to Lauren's family and her many friends is, I am very sorry. End quote. Scum. Pure and simple fucking scum. The motive, I can't say for sure, but it seemed like it was a typical case of a man that can't handle the hand that he had been dealt. He created this sick fantasy in his head that he and Lauren were supposed to be together, but with her lease expiring soon, he turned it from a fantasy into a typical case of, if I can't have you, nobody will. For Lauren's remains, only the torso was found. He had described that he discarded her limbs and head in the Mercer Law School dumpster, and they were never found. The other thing of note is that he didn't explain what happened with her hands. He had severed off all of her fingers and flushed them down the toilet. Amongst finding the child pornography on a flash drive, they also found more info on his computer. Search histories of his included scours of Lauren's Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn profiles. The phrases, Lauren Giddings nude, and some even more disturbing pieces that were written by a person on various message boards going by the moniker SOL was determined to stand for Sons of Liberty, as Stephen referred to himself as a true-born son of liberty. Yeah, sure. In an online posting, he mentioned how he was desensitized to gore and wrote fan fiction about people being disemboweled and dismembered. In an article that was made on Macon's Telegraph, It had the following quotes from a particular post that he made about wanting to kill religious demonstrators that were protesting the funeral of a fallen soldier, somewhat like the Westboro Baptist Church. The post reads, quote, "I'd go outside, grab my kit out of my car, pop in a fresh mag, and proceed to slaughter the entire bigoted group, never once doing so much as uttering a sound. When they are all dead, and they do all need to be dead, I'd sit down on the ground with my gun several paces away from me and just rock back and forth on the ground, eyes wide and blank." The post goes on to read, "They probably initiate charges, at which point the family will need to get a lawyer to argue that I had no knowledge of my actions and were not acting of my own volition when I acted. Keep the story consistent, and whenever I am asked about what happened, I look down and put a sad look on my face, relating what I was told happened, as you have no memory of it. I might end up institutionalized for a while so they can figure out what caused the blackout, and they may take my guns from me as well as the ability to purchase more. But if I stuck to the story, it's doubtful I'd end up in prison," end quote. At the end of his post, he states, quote, "Of course, this is all hypothetical," in all bold text. The day of the murder, he was looking up various things at different intervals in which lined up with the times of the videotaping, the murder, and even the death. As reported from 13 WMAZ out of Macon, Stephen was not a user of 4chan, like I had mentioned before, but another one that was really just also a literal cesspool that harnesses the energy of sexually frustrated young men who are the literal keyboard dumpster fires called Operator Chan. Please just don't look it up. It's flat out fucking gross altogether. They said that the night of Lauren's murder, Stephen looked through porn sites and looked up stories of a Japanese character who had the power to guard the souls of the recently deceased. At 4 a.m., he was scouring personal ads on Craigslist. He then committed the murder, then went back to his computer. From there, at about 5:42 a.m., he searched for information about a blade or knife, then started watching The Hangover Part 2. Throughout the day, he was off and on the internet. A track was found that at 11:18 p.m. he scoured the Bibb County Garbage Collection website for times in which they came to remove trash from various areas. With that information is when he went back to her body in the bathtub and started severing her limbs, fingers, and head and disposed of them in the dumpster at the Mercer Law School across the street. He then returns back to his computer and starts watching a cartoon called Lord Quadros on YouTube at about 12:35 a.m. Other things in his search history included the Arabian Nights story titled The Three Apples, in which it depicts a man murdering and dismembering his wife. Other things included the phrase, molesting a sleeping girl, and other things related to sexual fetishes. Either way, this dude was fucked. Detective Patterson was brash, but was also completely right. He was 100% fucked. Now that he admitted to the crime, they took the child pornography charges off of the table as well as the burglary. The death penalty was also revoked. His defense attorney had 351 pages of motions that they wanted to see taken away prior to his confession, with one of them most notably being that they didn't want anyone in the courtroom to be wearing pink clothing if they were to go to trial. They believed that it would tamper with the jury and stack the cards against Stephen. Of course, the family, friends, and anybody in the attendance of the nearly 3/4 full courtroom were wearing pink since he did not go to trial. On April 21st of 2014, Stephen Mark McDaniel was sentenced to life with the possibility of parole for the first-degree murder of Lauren Giddings. His first chance for parole will be in the year 2041. Of course, the story does not end there. because Sphincter Pasta decided for himself that he was going to try and get a new trial in the court of law. His father set up a GoFundMe account on July 12th of 2018 with a goal of $5,000 to support his legal services. It also read, quote, "Stephen has been separated from his family for the past 7 years. He lost 3 grandparents and was deprived the privilege of being a part of his brothers and sisters' lives," end quote. GoFundMe had taken down the page on July 25th since it violated their terms of service, and not a single penny was ever donated to that little dildo basket. Sorry, are my nicknames for this monster a little too much? No? Awesome. On August 17th of 2018, PP Butt stood in a Richmond County courthouse and brought with a treasure trove of not child porn, but court documents, and decided to hone in what he learned in law school and represent himself. His motion was that his constitutional rights were violated by his defense attorneys, Floyd Buford, and Floyd had actually told Stephen that he believed he was innocent up until he had fully admitted to killing Lauren. He described how the evidence that was found on his hard drive, the detail in which he described Lauren's murder, and was on his side up until he pled guilty. That court date ended, and the judge had not given a denial of a motion for a new trial, but that would be set for a later date, and that date was November 30th of 2018. So once again, Shitbird was at the forefront of his own defense trying to get a new trial, and suffice it to say, the Hindenburg had a better outcome than what Stephen had received. He argued that the prosecuting attorney Nancy Malcor spied on his legal research while he was in jail, and that was denied by her for the 70 minutes he kept her up on the bench. Frank Hogue, his second attorney, was questioned, and at the end of the day, Judge John Flythe had rejected every single one of this shriveled nutsack's arguments over the total of the 2 days that he wasted of the judge's time. He accused this murderous, rotten Georgia peach of running up the clock and said, quote, "It's not the best use of your or the court's time." He also accused him of trying to put himself back into the limelight. In all honesty, I think that his personal defense attorneys pulled a goddamn miracle of getting him life with the possibility of parole, considering all of the evidence that was stacked against him. But I honestly think that the best way all of the attorneys should have responded to this little dick fart's questions should have been,
I don't know.
And maybe he should have been more worried about passing the bar exam than carrying out this brutal and horrific murder of Lauren Giddings. A young woman with an incredible smile, a full heart, with so much love and passion for anyone who came into contact with her, taken away by a man so obsessed with her who decided that she belonged to him, so he took her away from everyone else around her. Lauren will never truly get justice, because with her life being cut short at the hands of this maniacal monster, hers could have been one to actually defend people who were wrongfully accused in a court of law, and the life that she wanted to carry out with her boyfriend, to return to her mom and dad in the Northeast, her dog, her sisters, and go out more nights and celebrate her accomplishments with her friends. She had so much life and love left in her body, mind, heart, and spirit. But as this one man obsessed and pined over her beauty, he was unable to see what she had to provide the rest of the world. Stephen McDaniel, in my opinion, does not deserve parole in 2041. He deserves to rot forever behind those prison walls. But that's going to do it for this episode. If you enjoyed it and you want to help out, head over to Apple Podcasts and drop me a 5-star review if you don't mind. Feel free to leave your favorite Stephen nickname in the review, and I'll post it to Instagram. Which, I almost forgot to tell you, I do have a special announcement coming up in the next few weeks, just in time for the holidays. So be sure to follow the show on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Murder and Such. And if you'd like to follow me, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, the PlayStation Network, Steam, and Snapchat at Huntor27. And if you do think the show is worth a little bit of cash, you can head over to Patreon at patreon.com/murderandsuch, and you can donate as little as $1 per episode. Or if you donate $5 per episode, you can get your name shouted out, just like I'm about to do with all of my executive producers. So thank you to Michelle Davis, Caitlin Poehler, Gusto, Strictly Homicide Podcast, Angel Renee, the Bama Brew Review Podcast, Aaron Albertson, Michelle Pierce, Jack Stoyron, Martha Pierce, Alex Agwire, Justin Reebsum, McKenna Johnson, Ariel Saphir, Stacy Jenks, Dan Sheridan, Benjamin Welch, Ashley Collier, Rambo Stanley, Lacey Velasquez, Erica Summers, Kyle Wesley, Danielle Longamore, The Nature vs. Narcissism and Ohio 88 podcasts, Big Daddy Thick Dick, Sarah Thompson, Dakota Curtis, and of course, Ashley Black and Tech Support. Plus, you will also get exclusive stickers, updates, a chance to vote in polls, you get the show early and ad-free, plus my undying love and gratitude. So thank you to all of my lovely patrons. I thank all of my friends with the show, and I also thank you for listening to this lengthy episode. But as always, my name is Hunter, reminding you to call someone you love today that it's okay not to be okay, but also to wash your filthy goddamn hands, wear that mask, I love you, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.